What is up, everybody? Welcome to a Sunday afternoon edition of Crunch Time here on RotoGrinders. Happy to be with you. As usual, got the weekend crew here with you on Sunday. Justin Van Zuden, Tim Buell, and TJ Zwarich will be along momentarily. Got tripped up just a bit by that earlier start. We've got a 30-minute earlier start today with how the schedule is shaking out. So coming at you just a little bit earlier. But Tim, how's your weekend going?
Yeah, it's going well. Definitely, I'm excited to have the All-Star break being over and back at it for the second half of the baseball season. This is a really interesting slate, and just so everybody knows, FanDuel is including the Coors game, so make sure when you're asking questions in the chat, make sure to specify DK or FanDuel because they are completely different slates today.
Yeah, and a larger slate than normal on a Sunday. We don't have a lot of West Coast games today. And again, that earlier game is included. So it's 11 games on DraftKings. It's 12 games on FanDuel. So heavy slate today with some interesting mix of pitching and offense. As far as weather goes, nothing significant. Roth has a yellow rating for the Coors game, but scattered showers and storms, and he says we're getting towards the point of the season where this becomes a near daily occurrence in Colorado, and 9 times out of 10 it works out fine. That's basically where we stand today, and obviously we want hitters there and not pitchers, so seems like they'll be able to get the game in. And speaking of getting in, here's TJ. Welcome, TJ. How's it going?
Doing well. Sorry about that, everyone. I did not realize the slate was a 105 start. I thought it was a 135, and so I was on baby duty, and I didn't check my phone in time, and so I just saw the messages and ran downstairs real quick.
That's all right. Yeah, the goofy deal that so MLB signed a deal with Roku this year, and some of the games start some of the Roku games start at like 11 a.m. and so then obviously those are excluded. But randomly today the Roku game starts at 105, and they included it on both slates. So we've got a slightly earlier start and big old 12-game slate on FanDuel, 11-game slate on DraftKings now. But it's okay. We're just getting started here and doing the greetings. So how's your weekend going?
Doing very well. I was at a wedding last night for some close friends, and then so it's been very busy, but looking forward to a nice relaxing day today with some baseball.
Yeah, should be a fun slate today as well. Again, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want notifications whenever we're going live. I'll turn those duties over to TJ to remind you to smash the like button in a little while, but we'll give him a couple minutes to get the Spidey Bombers ready to go and up and running. And we'll just kind of start with an overview of the slate today with pitching. And Tim, I'll let you lead it off. A lot of good real life pitchers today, but maybe not a lot of great DFS aces. I think it's pretty tricky to navigate. So what do you see at pitcher today?
Yeah, I think it's really tricky, especially at the high end. Guys like Joe Ryan, Seth Lugo, Shota Imanaga, even like guys like Jake Irvin and Michael King. Like all those guys are fine real life pitchers. They're all in so matchups. But I really, in my opinion, I don't think they're really that necessary. Michael King's, I think he's got the highest K rate out of all that group that I mentioned, but he's going up against Cleveland. As Justin mentioned in his Covering the Bases article, we saw Dylan Cease absolutely dominate Cleveland, but I don't think Michael King has quite the same stuff as Dylan Cease. So I think Michael King at 9K is a pretty easy pass. I think the real question is what to do with Joe Ryan at 10K. Probably the most talented real life pitcher on this slate. But it's not exactly an amazing matchup. And I think that there are pitchers that we'll get to later on in the show that are significantly cheaper that I think have better raw point potential and certainly better points per dollar potential. And this is a slate where there's going to be a lot of bats that we can pay up for. So I'm much more inclined to fade guys like Joe Ryan, Seth Lugo, Michael King, and go down to this next range that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, TJ, what do you think about the higher end spend up pitchers today?
I think I'm just looking to go underweight on the chalky ones in general. And so Fott is probably the one guy I'll probably still play despite that ownership. But Joe Ryan, Kevin Gausman, Savali's ownership has dropped a lot since earlier this morning. But Lugo too. I probably just want to kind of avoid this group of players today. And I mean, I might take some shots on Shota Imanaga with the wind blowing in. I'll play some Jake Irvin. I don't like Michael King. I agree with everything Tim said, but the fact that he's 6% makes me want to take a shot. And so I kind of want to just go heavily overweight, maybe get some Christian Scott in there on these not necessarily cheaper, but lower owned pitchers, because I don't really feel confident in any of them.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a big jumbled mess today, so we're pretty much all in agreement there. I'll have plenty of Joe Ryan just because, I mean, he's like the only guy that's got a 6.5 strikeout prop today. Gosman is up at 6.5 some places, but with juice on the under. So it's totally viable to save some salary and go a little cheaper today if you want to free up some spots for offense. If you look at our projections, we've got nobody projected above like 19 DK points. So it's just a bit of a mess at pitcher. So Tim, you mentioned potentially looking at some cheaper options. Who do you like if you're taking that path?
Yeah, so in cash games, I am going to be pitching Kevin Gausman, and I am going to be pitching Brandon Pfaadt. If you want to fade Gausman due to ownership in tournaments, I have absolutely no issue with that. Gausman is not the same guy that he used to be, but I still think at this price and in this matchup, he's completely fine. So cash games, it's Gausman and Pfaadt for me. I think you could certainly make an argument to go Ryan and Gausman in cash games, but I'm going to pay down a little bit to get like an extra bat. So I'm going to go Gausman and Pfaadt. Pfaadt, in terms of like points per dollar, I think he's probably my favorite pitcher on the entire slate. TJ touched on the fact that it's a really good pitching weather at Wrigley. I love that $8,300 price tag against the Cubs. So I'm very, very, very high on Pfaadt. And then Aaron Savali is definitely a viable punt option. Only $6,400, projected for around 15 fantasy points. I mean, that's really, really good and allows you to get up to a lot of bats. So yeah, so it's definitely I'm highest on Gausman and Pfaadt, and then I would go down to Savali. And then I guess I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted about what to do with Andrew Heaney. I think that he's showing right now that he's 15% ownership, which I was kind of surprised by. I thought he'd be able to come in a lot lower than that. I was hoping that he would, because the bat has him projected fairly decently for almost 16 fantasy points. So I believe there's no Henderson in that lineup today. Correct. So yeah, so I think he's actually somewhat decent of a play, just because that's a big name not to have in that lineup. So I think for 6,600, he's pretty good for GPPs.
Yeah, don't mind that call as well. We know that, he can at least strike some guys out. I think he's perfectly fine at that cheap salary on DK. Probably not messing with it over on FanDuel. But TJ, anything else you want to touch on at pitcher?
Don't think it's going to affect anything, but we do have a delay in Minnesota. I just subconsciously
the one game at 105 that's making us start early is in a rain delay anyways.
I think I subconsciously knew that game wasn't starting on time, and that's why I was just not showing up early. But that's to be like full honesty disclosure. There's no way in hell I'll be able to get my 150 lineups in for the first game in time. So I am fading Joe Ryan because I'm building them after the show.
Fair enough. Hey, that's as long as Ryan doesn't go out and pitch a no hitter or something, it's totally a viable path. It's the only game that starts, and it's not even going to be starting at that point now. So, yeah, I think that pretty much takes care of pitcher today. You can play whoever you want. To quote Blender, I think the most common combo will be probably Gausman and Pfaadt on DK, given that combined, it takes up like 17-1 in salary, which is palatable enough to leave you a good amount of money to spend for your bats. If you're going cheaper, Savale, Haney, they're certainly fine. I think Imanaga is interesting in GPPs as well, given the wind blowing in at Wrigley. We saw a 3-0 game there last night, so totally fine.
I do want to touch on FanDuel pitching just really
Sure.
quick because we got some questions in YouTube about FanDuel. For cash games, it's really either for me. It's either Gaussman or Fott. I would lean Gaussman in strictly cash. In tournaments, definitely get to some Fott. Definitely get to some Savali in tournaments. Obviously, Joe Ryan's fine, but I prefer Gaussman over him. But really, I would stick with Savali, Fott in GPPs, and then Gaussman in GPPs and cash games.
And if you want to interact with us on the show, of course, we'll try to get to some questions from YouTube as we go. But the best way to get in touch with us during the show, if you want us to answer your questions on the air, is in the RotoGrinders Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. You do not have to be a premium subscriber to get in there. You just have to be a RotoGrinders member. And so you sign up. If you aren't already a RotoGrinders member, sign up for free. Get into the Discord and ask your questions in the live stream chat channel. We'll make sure to prioritize those as we get closer to the end of the show. All right, let's talk offense, and I'll throw this to TJ first. What are we looking at for stacks today?
Probably, I think Philly is going to be my favorite, tied with Kansas City. Those are the two that I'm highest on today. Obviously, we got the Yankees looking in a good spot. Pittsburgh looks okay. Toronto looks okay. The Mets look okay. I don't have a firm sense of who I'm going to be as who's going to be my tier 2 today yet, just until I it's going to depend a lot on the lineups that just kind of lineup HQ is shooting out for me here. But I do know that I think Philadelphia and Kansas City are my top 2 by a fairly decent margin today. And then I really like Cincinnati as well as a lower owned team, as well as Texas as a lower owned team.
All right, Tim, what do you like for stacks this afternoon?
I like Atlanta quite a bit. I'm with TJ on Philly. I think they're a really, really solid stack. I like, obviously, the Royals. I think the Royals are going to be pretty popular today, and for good reason. Obviously, Bobby Witt's one of the best hitters in all of baseball, so that stack is going to be pretty popular, but I don't hate them at all. I like them quite a bit. So all the usual names on the Reds also. They're always a high-end boomer bust type GPP stack. So I like the Reds quite a bit. But I think my favorite overall stack would be Atlanta today.
Yeah, Michaelis struggles occasionally with the home run ball. It's hot down there. The Braves hit 3 home runs in 1 inning against Sonny Gray last night. Certainly don't mind going with the Braves. I like the Royals, of course, against the ever dangerous White Sox pitching staff. And in addition to the Braves, the Mets, and let's see, I had one other that I wanted to highlight, but those are mainly my top ones. I think Washington is interesting as well against Abbott, who has struggled with power bats. You got some guys in that Washington lineup with decent splits against lefties. Juan Yepes has been hitting real well. He's a nice value. You got Lane Thomas as well. Abrams always tends to go under-owned in lefty-lefty matchups. So Washington is probably the sneakier team for me today. All right, TJ, where are we at with likes and Spidey bombs this afternoon?
We are at 70 likes, but there are 450 people watching on YouTube, 800 plus overall. So I'm going to need 100 likes for the first Spidey bomb today, and then we'll drop them every 25 likes after that.
All right, sounds like a plan. So hit that thumbs up button. Of course, appreciate that very much. Again, get in the RotoGrinders Discord live stream chat channel if you want to interact and ask questions on the air. We'll be happy to answer some of those as we go along. We'll go through all the positions now, and then we will take those questions. We've got 30 minutes yet until lock. Just a couple of reminders before we get there. Of course, there's never been a better time to sign up for RotoGrinders Premium. We've got MLB, PGA, MMA, WNBA going on right now. Won't be too long before football season gets rolling. We've got an option for whatever level you are looking for. You can get a 6-month combo subscription for $469.99. It's a savings of $250 over 6 individual months of combo premium. You can get your first month of RG Premium for $40 off for a limited time. And if you want a test run before you buy, you can dip your toes in the water with a 3-day pass at $19.99. And check the links in the description for more info on that. All right, Tim, I'll give you the first pass of the torch here, and let's talk about what we've got at catcher today.
I actually like catcher quite a bit today, so it's really not an only in stacks position. I think you could use some of these guys as one-offs. Cash games, my favorite is Travis d'Arnaud batting 6th against Mikolas. I've already said that I like Atlanta as my favorite stack. I really like that price on d'Arnaud at 37. I know certain projection systems really like Danny Jansen today at 3,800, so he's certainly viable. Austin Wells is batting cleanup for the Yankees. He's obviously in play. I mentioned that I kind of like Heaney, but obviously he could get absolutely lit up by Baltimore. So if you want to pay up at catcher, Adley Rutschman at 5,400 is a fine GPP play. And then we're going to get some chalk on Kansas City. So I imagine Sal Perez at 4,600 is going to be pretty high owned. I don't know if I'd necessarily one off him, but as part of a Casey stack, absolutely fantastic play.
All right, TJ, what do you like at catcher today?
Catcher position, I'm probably going to look to get a little bit underweight on the highest projected owned guys that we're looking at, Rutschman and Danny Jansen right now. I do really like Austin Wells a lot batting cleanup, though. Like, that's going to be my highest owned guy, probably by fairly wide margin. I like Ruiz. I do prefer Sal Perez over the Rutschmans and the Jansens, the guys who are picking up the highest projected ownership right now. Blue Jays in general are looking pretty high owned, and I'm going to be probably trying to get underweight there. I don't mind some Stubbs, even though it's lefty-lefty. I don't mind some Carson Kelly just because he's been absolutely smashing for Detroit. But Wells and Ruiz are going to be and Perez are my favorites here by a wide margin.
Yeah, not a bad position today. Plenty of options, both the expensive guys and the cheaper guys. Agree with Tim and TJ there on guys like d'Arnaud, Wells, Ruiz. Certainly fine options that have drawn decent batting order spots today as well. You could pay up for William Contreras if you want, or even Wilson Contreras if you want to. They're kind of right next to each other in salary, so be careful if you're selecting them to hit the right W Contreras, but I think those are certainly decent spend up options at the position as well. And you can maybe even take a catcher on FanDuel today if you wanted to, especially if you're stacking. I mean, a lot of times it's still natural to maybe avoid the catcher, but it makes your lineup a little bit different over on FanDuel because you don't need one. And these guys, still project pretty okay. So decent amount to like at the catcher position today. All right, let's go ahead and move to first base. TJ, what do you like over there?
Juan Yepez at 3K is kind of looking like a nice, cheap option today for us to take advantage of. But I also really like Ben Rice as a nice cheapie. We're at 125 likes, so that means we got 2 Spidey Bums already. And why not make it 2 Yankees? Austin Wells and Ben Rice are both going to be hitting home runs today. So apparently I like the Yankees more than I thought I did. It's just such a cheap lineup today. And so Ben Rice and Austin Wells, Spidey Bums 1 and 2. Yepez, Rice, Candelario are going to be my top 3 options here. I like Bryce Harper even in the lefty-lefty. He is going to be my favorite spend-up option. And then Vinny P as well is going to be the other guy at low ownership that I'm looking to go to. Love him. Love him in anytime he goes low owned while I want to play Kansas City.
Yeah, I like the spot for the Royals today myself. So getting past Quintino in there, certainly a fine path. And his ownership is pretty well down the board, at least what we have projected right now. Not a whole lot of massive chalk here at the position because there's a lot of different options on a larger slate. I mean, even Yepes, who's projecting as the highest owned guy, we've only got at like 10.5% right now. So not a position where you have to worry a ton about ownership. Tim, what do you like at first base today?
My favorite raw point play is Matt Olson, 5K against Mikolas. Totally on board Bryce Harper and that Philly stack. I think they're fine. I think in cash games, you're either going Ben Rice or Juan Yepes. I think that's most likely your selection in straight cash games anyway. Don't mind those plays at all. Candelario at 4,600, I think is a really, really strong tournament play. Hate the ballpark, but I think we might be sleeping on the Mets just a bit. So Pete Alonso at 5,200, I think is a really solid GPP play. I think Vinny P 4,700. Going to be under 5% ownership. I think that's a really solid GPP as well. I mean, the more and more I look at this slate, there are just so many bats across the board. I think it's just such a great slate to pay down at pitching.
Yeah, and because there's not a lot of high projections for the top end pitchers, the opportunity cost isn't super high to spend down at the pitching slots today. So agree on that approach. And you even got guys like Bryce Harper never picks up a ton of ownership in lefty-lefty matchups. JD Martinez, who I like a good bit today as well. He's first base and outfield eligible on DraftKings. Probably playing him in the outfield, but just another guy that you can consider at a pretty deep position there. All right, let's swing on over to second base. And Tim, what do you like at second today?
Cash games, it's probably Gleyber Torres. I know that he has not been amazing this season, but batting fifth in that lineup at only 3,400 on DraftKings. I mean, that's extremely cheap. A great lineup spot in a really solid stack. So that's going to be my cash game second baseman. I really like David Schneider quite a bit. He would be like an interesting price point pivot over Gleyber Torres at 3,600. I obviously like Ozzy Albies quite a bit. He's really expensive. I imagine that his ownership is going to be really, really small. So I do like him as like a spend up option. Marcus Semien, 4,800, going against Kramer. I think he's a pretty decent option as well. Not really liking this ownership on Westberg for the Orioles. So I think I'd be out on him unless you want to stack Baltimore, but I think that's pretty high ownership. He's very, very expensive. So I like some of the more higher up guys more than that. But really, and the other person I want to talk about is Garrett Hampson, 2,700. I think he's a really interesting punt on a really, really good stack. So don't forget about him today in your stacks. I know that he's not like an amazing hitter, but he's only 2,700. He's batting sixth. He should have opportunities to produce fantasy points. So I do like him as like a value option.
All right. Yeah, agree on the Westberg call at that salary. And with no Gunner in that lineup today, I'm a little bit cooler on the Baltimore offense. I know Haney can be susceptible to power at times, but just their team total is relatively modest for where their salaries sit. So not super high on the Orioles myself today as well. TJ, what do you like at second base?
Not a lot, if I'm being totally honest. Just basically nothing. Edmundo Sosa at 3,600 is somebody that I really like today. Marcus Semien batting leadoff is a guy that I don't mind getting to. Torres is fine, but I'd much rather take a lefty going up against Baz. Jonathan India, I do really like batting leadoff for Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a stack that I'm fairly high on today. Nick Gonzalez batting cleanup for Pittsburgh, I think, is a very interesting tournament play at 4K. It's just a pretty gross position here. Honestly, one of my favorite for tournaments, I'm going to just keep playing Colt Keith every single day until they make him $4,500. Like, I don't know why they refuse to raise his price. I don't care that it's Gaussman. Good. It'll give me a little bit of leverage. I'm going to keep playing Colt Keith every single day until they raise his price.
Yeah, he's been a real revelation there for the Tigers over the last few weeks. They have won, I think, 10 out of 12. So maybe the Tigers won't be sellers at the trade deadline, and they might just go for one of those wild card spots if they keep winning. So certainly still a long shot for them to get there, but nice to see a team that hasn't really sniffed the playoffs in a few years to be playing well. All right, let's go ahead and move over to third base. TJ, what do you like over at third?
Just really randomly there at the end, you went robot mode again, cards, if you want to bounce in and bounce out. But Candelario is definitely my favorite. I love him here. Adam Frazier at 2,800 is, your cash game salary saver, one of the first people you're putting in there. But my goodness, Adam Frazier at 15%. That's definitely seems like the one Kansas City player I'm looking to fade today. Play a Kansas City stack without Adam Frazier. That just is different enough for me, and I'm good to go. I like Austin Riley against Miles Michaelis. I can't remember if I said it, but Candelario is my favorite. Josh Smith has been red hot lately. I like him at 4,400 in or out of Texas stacks. Mark Vientos is probably, I said Candelario, but if it's not Candelario, it's Vientos. Batting fifth today. It's a bad park, but going up against a lefty, he absolutely smashes them. I like him today as well. That's mostly it for the guys that I really like. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, I think Austin Riley is probably my favorite overall third baseman, but it's super close. I do like Candelario quite a bit. Yeah, I'm with you, TJ, on the whole Adam Frazier thing. He'd really be like an only in cash games. Like I am playing a 3-man in Kansas City in single entry right now. I have him in there, and I'm kind of debating taking him out because I'm worried that he's going to be super popular, especially in single entry stuff. So it's kind of a debate I'm having right now. Definitely a guy that you don't necessarily want to play at heavy ownership, but in cash games, he's completely fine. I really like that Josh Smith call also. He's currently at 4% ownership going against Kramer. So I think that's a super sharp call on Josh Smith. I'm currently looking up his home run odds to see what those are because I really like that play quite a bit.
I just got him at plus 700, so I fired that up.
Is he really?
So I only have the one site here in Saskatchewan. But he's plus 600 on DraftKings, plus 675 on Caesars.
I'm gonna bet that. So that's one tater today is Josh Smith plus 600 on DraftKings. He's also plus 675 if you have bet MGM. So two really good lines currently on him. So yeah, I really like that Josh Smith play quite a bit. Miguel Garcia, I think a lot of people are going to forget about him because he's down in the 7 hole now. He's 4,300, but that very well might be the best stack on the day. So I think he's a really, really strong pivot away from some of these value chalkier Kansas City players.
Robo Cards has returned. Do I sound okay?
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's weird. It's just the one little quick period per show. Didn't that used to always happen last year at like the exact same time?
Well, it wasn't bad at that. It was. I just went totally like dark, like you couldn't hear me at all. So I don't. It seems like we ended up circling that back to the microphone that I was using, which I'm no longer using. So who knows what's causing this? I've probably got too many tabs open and something's messing it up. But I'll close some of those out. Anyway, we're getting close to the back half of the show, so hopefully I don't go robo mode again. But let's go ahead and move on over to shortstop. And Tim, you can keep on rolling there. What do you like at short?
Yeah, as always, Bobby Witt is basically a must-play in cash games. He's probably your top priority spend on your cash game team today. Really scary fade in GPPs. Obviously, I'm fine if people want to fade him in GPPs. Corey Seager would be my next favorite shortstop. I mean, shortstop is just perpetually just loaded every single day. I mean, there's so many guys that you could play. I would definitely, be getting to a lot of these higher end shortstops like Ellie, like O'Neill, Lindor, even guys, Trey Turner. You've got left on left, CJ Abrams, like Card mentioned in his article. The Nationals are going to be super low owned. We have CJ Abrams at 1.5% owned right now. I mean, that's just fantastic. Guys like Mason Wynn at 4,200 batting leadoff at 2%. So really, this is not a position that I would full on punt. This is a position that I'm going to be trying to pay up at as we have been all year.
Yeah, absolutely. Tons of high end guys at the position. like some of those lower owned calls. Certainly Bobby Witt is in the conversation as the top overall bat on the slate, but there's plenty of other guys that can produce some numbers at shortstop as well. So, TJ, what do you like at short?
Bobby Witt, Corey Seager, Ellie Dela Cruz, Trey Turner, Francisco Lindor. That's about it. I don't think I'm gonna mess around with anybody outside of those top 5 today. Maybe some where did he go? Why can't I find him? O'Neal Cruz. I think O'Neal Cruz is a strong play today, so maybe throw him in there. But everybody else, all these guys, like I'll keep CJ Abrams. But when I get to my lineup building here, I'm going like this. I'm going X, 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 X. Keep Abrams, X, X. McKinstry, I want to play at third. X, X, X. Win, nah. X. Schneemann batting 5th. I like that, but I'm going to keep him for the outfield. X, X, X. Keep him at second base. There. That's my shortstop pool today for 150 lineups.
Fair enough. Looks all right for sure. Lots of high-end options at that position. And like the guys mentioned, probably not the spot where you want to go punting. All right, just one position to go. Again, reminder, start throwing your questions in the RotoGrinders Discord live stream chat channel. We'll get to those here in just a couple minutes. Should have about 10 minutes, a perfect amount of time to go through some questions. So start rolling those in right now. We'll go through the outfield, and then we will hit those questions. So, TJ, what do you like in the outfield?
We did just hit 150 likes, so we got Spidey Bomb number 3. Keep smashing them if you want more. Number 3 is Mark Vientos today. Absolutely love him to hit a bomb. Outfielders, guys I really like. I just mentioned, before I forget about him, because I didn't actually realize he was batting 5th, I do like Schneemann for the Guardians as a nice, cheap one-off in a good spot today. 3,200 batting 5th. I like that quite a bit, even if it is against Michael King. Outside of that, I'll see if I can refresh here to get ownership updating. I haven't done my 150 set yet, so I don't actually know who's going to be my very highest owned guy, but I love Juan Soto against Baz. Like I said, I'm going to be trying to target the lefties. If we do really get a low-owned Aaron Judge, 10% less than Soto, I'll be making sure I have him too. As we go, I keep talking myself more and more into Yankee stacks, even though I typically like Shane Baz. Anthony Santander, I think, is a really strong play. I'll be fading him because I'm not playing that first game, but Buxton batting 3rd today, I think, is very interesting. Hunter Renfroe's been terrible, but he's batting 5th for Kansas City. Same with Nick Castellanos, batting 5th today. Really like him. Somebody that I don't mind to hit a home run today. Schwarber in the lefty-lefty. I have no problem with that. JD Martinez, Brandon Nimmo in a lefty-lefty. Nimmo's absolutely smashed left-handed pitching this year. So I like him quite a bit as well. I think that's about it for my primary favorite plays today.
Go ahead, Tim. What do you like in the outfield today?
Yeah, so obviously guys like Aaron Judge, Kyle Schwarber, fantastic plays. I love Marcell Zuna today. Currently have him at 2% ownership, so absolutely love that play. Jared Kelenic, under 5% right now at 4,200. Really love that Atlanta team quite a bit. Guys like I don't know, guys like maybe Alec Burleson in that 4K range, like George Springer, JD Martinez, all under 5K. Jazz Chisholm, 4,200. That's way too cheap for his skill set. We've discussed some of these national players like Lane Thomas at 51. I think he's a very, very solid play. Not really a lot to really like at the super, super low end. So if you are going to go cheap, I would do it as part of your stack. Not as there's not a really, really strong value outfielder outside of maybe guys I don't know, maybe outside of guys like Adam Frazier for cash games, but I think you should be playing him in cash anyway at 3rd. But there's really no really solid cheap outfielder.
All right. Yeah, not a whole lot there. I think it's certainly a position where you want to try to spend outfield and shortstop, and then you can get your value guys at some of the other positions. All right. We have a few questions in the Discord. Again, get those in now. We've got about 8 minutes left until lock. JMBP asking your 2 favorite stacks on FanDuel today, and we'll all answer this. So on FanDuel, again, you do have the Coors Field game there as well. So Tim, your 2 favorite stacks on FanDuel.
2 favorite. I would still go Atlanta. And then I would probably go. I mean, the Giants are going to be probably pretty popular. I would go Atlanta, and then I'd go Cincinnati.
And I kind of like the Mets. The Giants are rolling out kind of a B lineup today. They're giving some guys a day off after that 5-day All-Star break. 2 games in, they're tired again. They need some days off. So I don't like the Giants quite as much as I did this morning. I throw the Mets into the mix as well. I like the Royals. So we'll make those my 2 picks. But TJ, what do you like for stacks on FanDuel?
Yeah, top 2, I will go Phillies and Royals.
All right, NBA DFS with favorite Coors bats for cash on FanDuel. Only have Soler right now. Tim, I'll throw that to you. What do you like on the Coors game today?
Yep, just got to pull up salaries real quick. I mean,
yeah, they're all
definitely
fairly high.
Yeah, I mean, for cash, they said they already have Soler. I guess Conforto batting 5th at 32 would be my next favorite. But yeah, Justin really called it. This is a real kind of B lineup, so I'd go Conforto and maybe Chapman as well. I think that's an okay price for him in a platoon advantage spot. So Conforto, Chapman, Soler. Maybe just play 3 Giants in cash.
ASAP Chargers was asking about my favorite pitchers on the Yahoo all day slate. So Fott and Gosman are both $41 on DraftKings. So I'd probably lean towards Fott there, but it's close. You can throw in like some of the later afternoon guys if you want, but there's not a whole lot there. Like Ronel Blanco, I think, is the second most expensive pitcher on the slate. So there's not a whole lot of later pitchers that are any different or any better than the earlier slate guys. So the analysis from before would mainly hold like Gosman, Fott, Joe Ryan, but it's a tricky slate for pitching. Tyler Phillips maybe on Yahoo is more viable because he's pretty cheap, but otherwise there's not a whole lot different there. All right, Blink 182 Rue DK Large Field Tournament. TJ, thoughts on a 4-4 game stack in Atlanta with the Cardinals and the Braves with high dew point. Roth would be happy, and mid to high 90s temperatures. So Cardinals Braves stack. Are any interest there, TJ?
It's fine. It's not my first choice personally, but there's definitely no problems with it.
All right. Again, if you got any questions, we got about 5 minutes left here until lock. Get those into the Discord. Razzle Dazzle's asking for a recap on cash game pitchers today. Tim, I'll throw that to you. What about what are you doing as far as cash game pitching?
I'm going Gausman and Fott, but you could definitely go Gausman, Ryan, or Fott and Ryan. So it's really a combination of those 3, in my opinion, for straight cash games.
Yeah, and on FanDuel, I got to choose one, so that makes it a little bit easier. Some combination of those 3. I think Fott is my favorite as well. You can go cheaper with somebody like Aaron Savali or Andrew Haney, but I think that's more of a DraftKings play. Probably not going that low on FanDuel with just the single pitcher. All right, we got about 5 minutes left until lock. Go ahead and make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Let's get to 200 likes before the show ends. TJ, I don't know where we left off for Spidey Bombs. Did we get, are we at an appropriate amount for the number of likes that we have?
We're at 165, so 10 likes away from the 4th Spidey Bomb. If you missed it, first 2 were Ben Rice, Austin Wells. 3rd one was Mark Vientos. And we got 4th at 175, 5th at 200.
All right, J3 says the mini Met stack is going to go ham today. Producer Steve knows what I'm talking about. Steve is on vacation, I believe, right now. So I'll pass that along to him, though, that you like the Mets. 1-0 win over the Marlins yesterday. Keith Roberts says Trevor Rogers gets me a NYY 1-5 stack, and Riley, am I stupid? Mr. Grapefruit replied with do Marco Gonzalez instead. Again, it's going pretty cheap with the pitching, but hey,
I
every
like
pitcher.
Rogers a lot better than Gonzalez for what it's worth.
Yeah, I don't love either.
I don't love either, but if I'm taking a shot on one, it's definitely Rogers, not Gonzalez.
Yeah. It seems like every pitcher the Pirates get these days is turning into gold, but I don't think Marco Gonzalez is going to turn into Paul Skeens. Marco Gonzalez, a former Cardinal, so hopefully he doesn't turn into Paul Skeens. Chris Brown says, I think the Pirates are going to rake. They're playing really well right now. Dean Shavelson wants an official tater from Tim. So, Tim, the floor is yours.
I already gave. He's got to rewind.
Oh, man.
I'm not paying attention.
I already gave one out. So, thanks, Dean. Thanks for listening.
Be kind, rewind.
Yep.
5% of the audience will understand that joke. Let's see. It was Josh Smith. J3 gave Dean the out.
I know. Unbelievable.
We hit a 3-team parlay, by the way, last night. Dean and I did on the XM show with the Orioles, Dodgers, and Diamondbacks. So there you go. Tune in on the weekends. All the winners. All right, let me go back to the Discord. Nothing further there. We are at 172 likes. All right, TJ, they're going to get us 3 more. I need you to throw out one more Spidey bomb here to cover the last couple minutes.
All right, let's do it. Spidey bomb number 4. You know, I don't like this team as a full stack today, but I will say my guy Vladimir Guerrero is not going out of the park tonight. So Vladdy is Spidey bomb number 4.
He's been hitting a lot better finally here the last couple weeks. His bats are looking better. He's getting the ball in the air a little bit more, and the numbers have started to improve. So hopefully that's a positive sign for Guerrero, and maybe, TBD if he gets moved at the deadline or
I don't think he's getting moved. I think the only people who would get moved would be the people who are free agents at the end of this year. So I think they're willing to give up on this year, but not the future. So I think you'll see Kiermaier gone and Justin Turner gone and maybe Jimmy Garcia and Yusei Kikuchi, but I don't think those young guys are gonna be gone yet. I have a theory with Vlad that it's like, I don't know if you've watched him in person recently. He just looks like a totally different human being than he does 2 years ago. He has lost so much weight. He is built completely differently. He's playing third base defensively now and doing it really well. When you see golfers lose a bunch of weight and then all of a sudden they can't figure out their swing for a while, I think that's just what was going on. I think that's what was going on with him. He was still hitting it super hard. He just couldn't get it off the ground. And I think it's because that belly wasn't in the way anymore.
had to adjust for sure.
Yeah.
It's a viable theory. All right. Well, that's Dean and Tim are arguing about rewinding VHS tapes now. So I think that's a great way to leave off the show for today. But Tim, Tim, you're on the air and Dean's not, so you have an advantage. Anything else you need to pass along before we end the show?
I'm going to do one more tater just for Dean. I'm going to go Matt Olson. He's plus 400 on BetMGM, plus 370 on DK.
All right. Thank you all for watching. We are at lock for this Sunday. Again, hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Maybe we can get to 200 by the time this video closes out. Thanks to TJ for hosting and producing on Sunday. Double duty as usual. Thanks to Tim for joining along as well. Thanks to all of you. We hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm Justin, and we'll catch you out later, everybody. See ya.